Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. More Birthright here as we continue on with Rurik Realms. Today we're taking a look at Hogunmark, which is the major one in the northern areas here, and there's also a Player Secrets book for it, which will, we shouldn't say book, more of a supplement, but we'll get to that at some point down the road as well. So let us know if you are wanting us to maybe get to that a little bit sooner. We might have something there where we put that out earlier on our Patreon initially with some extra support. But speaking of that, if you guys do want to see Birthright content early and additional Birthright and other D&D content, among other stuff for other game systems too, but since you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you're more interested in D&D. We do have a couple different tiers on our Patreon that really do help out the channel and help us acquire some other odds and ends for Birthright still, but also other D&D settings, which we're going to expand into as well. But also just in general helps keep the channel going and helps us grow. So take a look at that, guys, and then we will jump in here with Hogunmark. So it is, again, one of the major realms of this area, but also one that players can run, right? So it's considered chaotic good. It is, again, available for players. It's a vast realm of windswept taiga and thick forests, largely inhabited by nomadic Rurik. Though it's the largest Rurik realm, much of its area remains unsettled and completely untamed, which you can kind of see here, right? We have several provinces with zeros, almost, I'd say probably about a third of them. Several ones, right? So again, minimal settlement. We got a 2 there with Hjolgrun. One, or actually 2 fairly populated ones as a 4, Gundavir and Djalfund, but the rest largely unpopulated. You can see the law is spread out amongst other peoples, not just one unified set there. Same thing for the temples. There's mainly one religion here with one sort of like minor holding over there. And the guild situation does appear to be somewhat tied to the political situation. No sources, which, you know, if there is a possibility of having a wizard character and getting that developed, you have an insane amount of untapped potential there for sources. So let's jump in. Queen Freyla maintains some authority in all her provinces, but wisely leaves primary enforcement to her jarls, who are the supreme authority in their various realms. Many jarldoms exist in theory only, with minimal or no real control by the queen and her representatives. Now on the temple side, the Emerald Spiral holds sway here, favored by the rural Rurik over the rival Oaken Grove of Eric, though permanent temples are uncommon. Most of the druids maintain wilderness shrines, circles, groves, or sacred caves, where local Rurik come to worship, seek advice, or ask the druids to settle disputes. Now on the guild situation, the queen and jarls control most of the trade in Hogunmark. There's no organized trading guilds or consortiums as such as we would traditionally define them, though. But with some more development, maybe that could slowly start, but again, also spread out in control. Sources. The wilds of Hogunmark harbor many potential sources, but no wizard has braved the harsh climate and suspicious natives to actually develop them. So let's get into some of the nuts and bolts here of running the realm. So interestingly, Regency generated and accumulated is 22 and 22. So you got a decent amount to work with there. It has a, as it says here, healthy 15 gold bars, which is somewhat surprising considering just how undeveloped the country is. In its treasury, and it does generate approximately 10 per turn. Again, pretty impressive despite all the lack of sort of centralized organization and guild activity and other stuff to tax. Now, an army does have a fairly substantial one here, all things considered. Queen Freyla maintains a small standing army to fight off raids from the Bloodskull Barony, as you would expect, and the realm of the White Witch. In the event of invasion, she can call upon her jarls, who can swell her army with numerous units of irregulars. Her personal guard is called the Hogunmark Dragons. Normally, these are the following typical forces, so, and pretty decent selection here of forces. So we got 2 units of archers, 2 of infantry, 1 unit of cavalry, the aforementioned Hogunmark Dragons, and a unit of scouts. Again, with the ability to call on the jarls and field tons of irregulars, you know, up to the DM's discretion. Maybe something would work out with the players, but maybe 1 or 2 units of irregulars per jarl or something along those lines. So really could almost double the size of the army, and does have a little bit of a navy with the 1 longship there, but that's not going to do all that much, right? And that, again, seems like a decent little army, but then you consider how large the territory is, so that's a lot of territory to try and defend with still a fairly small force. Now, Queen Freyla is a level 10 fighter, which is pretty damn impressive. Also a pretty big bloodline there of 32. Is an intelligent middle-aged woman who rules the land from her palace in Vikanger, deep in the southern forests. She is well liked by her people, who thus far have not experienced serious difficulties arising from the Ruric urban nomadic conflict. She does have some lieutenants here. So her chief steward, Hruthwolf, is a talented administrator and competent military commander, and is left in charge when she's indisposed or traveling. Now, other important NPCs. The High Druid of Hogunmark, Thorjak the Green, is a level 13 priest. Again, very impressive levels with a lot of these Ruric realms here. Also chaotic good, and again, fairly large bloodline. Lives in a carefully maintained and protected grove in central Hogunmark, deep in the woods. He is a great source of wisdom for those in Hogunmark and elsewhere. Pilgrims, druidic acolytes, and others seeking wisdom often journey to his grove to pose questions or request training. He is an ancient man, and not all his visitors come away with the wisdom they sought, but travelers continue coming nonetheless. Now, as far as a little bit of the backstory on the realm, it did not exist prior to the Battle of Mount Daesmar. After that event, when the blood was bestowed upon the Ruric people and compelled their leaders to greatness, the nomadic clans of Hogunmark united to form a nation and selected one of their blooded leaders, the Jarl Weolf, to lead them. The nation thus created existed largely for mutual defense and patriotic identity. The Hogans wished to avoid the fate of the southern regions, which had spent long centuries sparring against Enuiran domination. The clansmen retained a deep, typically Ruric streak of independence, obeying the king or queen only when their orders made sense, and occasionally even displacing an unpopular monarch and electing a new leader. Today, though, the situation continues largely unchanged, though the minions of the White Witch have begun to put increased pressure on the eastern jarldoms. Queen Freyla has sometimes been forced to call upon some of her irregulars to defend against the witch's minions, which again presents some interesting PC opportunities there. Should we be just characters adventuring in the realm? Certainly some questing opportunities there. The wild taigas are home to scattered nomadic clans, roaming herds of reindeer and occasional bands of trolls and ogres. And the rare Foimoirian, again, plenty of just a little bit of hack and slash adventuring there, doing some monster clearing for players. These trackless, sparsely populated lands are hazardous for travel, owing to harsh conditions, cold, and wind, as well as hostile clansmen and monsters. The far northern reaches of the realm, particularly the windswept Reichenskapa, are but sparsely populated, although a number of storm giants are known to call these lands home. Again, lots of high-level adventuring, too, with some of these monsters. The interior forests harbor most of the land's nomadic population, who winter here in semi-permanent camps and travel the taiga in summer. The thick woods are also home to Foimoirians, isolated humanoids, and forest giants as well. So again, lots of diverse monsters, potentially, things to fight. The city of Aldvika, nestled in the deep forests of western Hogunmark, is the northernmost port along the Thessalian Passage. As such, it's grown into a bustling seaport. Most of the traffic to the lonely Ruric outpost on the entail passes through there, further enriching the citizens. Queen Freyla and her family maintain almost complete control of trade through Aldvika, keeping them wealthy and well-connected as well. And again, could be developed a little bit more as well, just to bridge some other trading connections. Should we be able to, or should the player and the leader be wanting to develop that more, just to develop the economy, and then fund that to, or use that funding to grow the realm in other ways too. But also could be a sort of a fun departure point for players if they should go sort of questing off into the unknown and cross the seas over into the Thale, and there's just kind of like the wild frontier there for Birthright. Some description given and stuff, which we'll I think get to in this, but a lot of crazy high level monsters over there as well. Continuing on, this fact remains largely unknown to the nomadic Ruric, who make up the bulk of the population. The nomads consider her to be one of them, unconnected to the soft Ruric of the south. Should her strong connections with foreign merchants ever become common knowledge, she might lose some serious support there. So interesting sort of political thing to worry about should you actually be running the realm too. And something probably that should require resources and effort to sort of keep well protected and well secreted, but those maybe wishing to pry that into the public and discredit the queen should we be running her as the actual leader with the PCs? That would be something to maybe squash as fast as possible, and could be a fun twist in some of the random events too that we have when you're running the realm. Now the capital is the forest city of Vikingar, tucked within the wooded slopes of the Jarlskap Hills. A rude palisaded city built primarily of wood, it's also the main bulwark of defense against raiders from the Bloodskull Barony. Several druids maintain important circles nearby and aid in the city's defense if needed. Now, the queen does spend most of her time in her central palace complex, which is basically a series of thatched roof longhouses with elaborately carved crossbeams, extensive meeting halls, and luxurious living quarters. The Jarls of Hogunmark meet here each year to discuss disputes, advice of the druids, or ask advice of the druids, and socialize in general. Now, the traded goods, as you might expect, small quantities of lumber, furs, artwork, and weapons. Most of the land's mercantile income comes from the tariffs on foreign goods. Ironic timing there on tariffs. But anyway, moving on there. So tariffs on foreign goods bound for the Thale colonies, headed south to the Tail Shore and Anwarian lands, or destined for Brecht lands to the east. The Hogunmarkers also purchase foreign spices, precious metals, dyes, and artwork. A sea trade route links Djalfund with the Brecht lands. So she does have that. Now, land trade routes will be more difficult, as we know, because, again, bordering on the Bloodskulls and the White Witch, and those directions make that pretty difficult. And westward, again, is largely going to be some troublesome connections there, too, just with all the random monsters and stuff, and just the lack of really organized, development, like civilization development, right? So, like, actual roads and routes and security and things like that. So now Allies does retain friendly relationships with neighboring Rurik realms, though its Jarls have little use for proper treaties, preferring the strength of honorable oaths to the written word. Should neighboring realms be threatened, Hogunmark will attempt to aid them and expect similar aid if, again, the White Witch or the Scarlet Baron attempt major attacks. So you have that, but again, could be maybe cultivated more down the road, but largely it also depends on what's going on in those realms. So kind of a difficult situation, but best strategy really would be to start strengthening the realm and maybe treading carefully there as far as going overly off the deep end and trying to civilize it more, quote unquote, make it more urban, but at the same time, there's got to be a balance between security and the other needs and stuff like that too. So enemies, there's always plenty. So there's a constant war against the minions of the White Witch, who have moved against the land many times over the past centuries. Bloodskull Raiders are also a threat, but most of their raids are more focused on the Tailshore realms, right? They're not necessarily focused northward, but again, could be at any time too. But also, as it describes here, just some of the other monsters that seem to populate here. So all kinds of different types of giants, other humanoids and stuff like that. So plenty of conflict internally amongst just the actual cultural conflict within the Rurik as well, and other pressures to then also these external pressures as well. But not an easy realm to run if we're running this as the Birthright game in that sense. There's lots of difficulties going on here. It's got some decent starting features on paper here, right? We got a decent treasury, some decent regency, decent sort of standing army. Huge realm though, but again, crazy amounts of untapped provinces here. But again, difficult to really get these ruled up into slightly more civilized. But a longer term approach here, I think would be maybe not worrying so much about the zeros for the moment, but getting a lot of these ones maybe leveled up to level 2 provinces, then 3 if you can manage it over the long term, just to sort of grow the population. And again, tread carefully between going too civilized for some and causing other conflicts there, but then just also not sort of agitating the Jarls as well, so and making it seem like you're trying to be more autocratic, but that could be combined with the need for hey, we do need to develop and have stronger defenses than just relying on the old ways with the dangers of the White Witch and other stuff going on. But again, if we're adventuring in here, lots of opportunity, right? You can sort of if you're from another area or even culture, or maybe just actual native to Hogunmark and just coming up as adventurers and stuff like that, plenty of ways to serve the realm, and in some cases do some monster exterminating, but then maybe gradually drawn into a larger conflict or plots as far as incursions by the Blood Skulls or the White Witch and stuff, right? So there's plenty of opportunity there to serve the realm and grow into famous heroes in Hogunmark. Let us know, guys, if you have played Hogunmark and how that's gone in your campaigns, or what you would like in this realm. Should you use it for your campaign? Hit us up in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.